Hi, everyone. Welcome and thank you for being here. I'm Katie, and I'm the Senior Communications Manager at the Climate Action Campaign. I'll pass it over to our speakers in a moment, but briefly, I'd like to say why we're here. CAC, in partnership with Physicians for Social Responsibility Pennsylvania and Climate Power, are here today to call on Congress to protect Pennsylvania's health, jobs, economy, and environment by standing up to attacks on key climate initiatives like the Inflation Reduction Act, which provides historic funding for climate and clean energy. Our coalition has delivered three petitions with strong support for climate action in Pennsylvania. One is signed by over 25,000 Pennsylvanians, another is endorsed by 15 Pennsylvania-based groups, and a third is signed by over 50 Pennsylvania leaders. These petitions show that Pennsylvanians stand firmly behind climate and health policies and against attacks on laws like the IRA. Here with us to talk about these rollbacks and what they mean for Pennsylvania are Dr. Ned Cotire, President of Physicians for Social Responsibility Pennsylvania, and Kelly Hardin with Climate Power's Pennsylvania State Desk. So first, to talk about the latest edition of their Clean Energy Boom Report, which highlights how far we've come in the last couple of years and how much is at stake in the years to come, I'll hand it over to Kelly.
Thank you, Katie, and it's great to be here. Thanks for putting this together. Um, as mentioned, I'm Climate Power's Pennsylvania State Desk, and we, as an organization, put out a quarterly Clean Energy Boom Report and have since the Inflation Reduction passed in 2022. That captures how the clean energy economy has been growing in the past couple of years. Um, and as we began 2025, last week we put out our latest report that celebrates America surpassing over 400,000 new clean energy jobs in just the 2 years since the IRA was passed. But as we're here to talk about, many of these investments are now under threat. But really, these past 2 years have been about explosive growth. The clean energy economy has become American energy. And with these federal investments, clean energy is not only booming, but it has become central to state economies and energy supplies. And so these threats are very real, and uh, we hope will get more attention as some of the legislative fights develop. But the bottom line is the clean energy plan that President Biden passed is bringing good jobs to communities, and really to communities that have seen factory jobs, manufacturing jobs disappear over the past few decades. And that's especially true here in Pennsylvania. We also put out our state-specific fact sheets, and across Pennsylvania, private companies have announced 19 new clean energy projects that have created almost 5,000 new clean energy jobs and brought in over 1.3 billion in new investments in our economy and in these businesses. Um, just to just to sort of qualify, these are jobs and investments from private companies. And so they are just a portion of the jobs and benefits coming to Pennsylvania from the federal clean energy plan. For example, these job numbers don't include, um, jobs that are being funded by IRA programs to plug oil and gas wells across the state, or, doesn't encompass the economic impact of all the, Pennsylvania families who've taken tax credits for energy efficient upgrades in their homes. So this is really just capturing the growth of private companies who are coming to Pennsylvania, who are coming to states across the country to grow their businesses and create job opportunities, largely in rural communities, in disadvantaged communities, and over half of these jobs and investments are also in Republican congressional districts. Um, So that brings us obviously to the situation we're in now, as of Monday in a new presidential administration. Um, I think where we stand is Americans need help now. They want lower costs and they want good paying jobs and leadership in times of disaster. And Donald Trump's executive orders so far are a gift to his oil and gas donors at the expense of working families. And killing these hundreds of thousands of new jobs, again, most of them in Republican held districts, would result in raising costs for families, stripping away energy choices and putting more toxins into our air and water. Um, so just want to underscore again, these clean energy investments are creating jobs and revitalizing communities. Um, and if Trump moves forward killing these investments, families will pay more. Um, so going forward, we obviously believe we need to keep investing in 21st century industries and that these repeals would really pull the rug out under some great American companies who are making these investments and are seeing the benefits of the clean energy economy. It would also pull the rug under millions of Americans who work for them and our status as a world energy leader. Happy to answer any questions and share more details about the report itself. But a lot of the fun details are in there and in the state fact sheet as well.
Great, thanks, Kelly. And now I will hand it off to Dr. Ned Katire.
Thank you, Katie. And thanks to the Climate Action Campaign and Climate Power for joining me on this press call today. Citizens for Social Responsibility Pennsylvania is a nonprofit organization consisting of Pennsylvania health professionals empowering communities to protect public health by advocating for socially and environmentally just actions. PSRPA works to develop safe and resilient communities for a healthy future. Well, it didn't take long, did it, for the new president to remove the United States from the Paris Climate Agreement and make good on his promise to roll back the significant progress made over the last couple of years to address the growing threat to Americans' health and safety from the climate crisis. It's incomprehensible to me that any responsible person, especially a president of the United States, could act in such an irresponsible and cynical way that directly threatens every American living in every neighborhood, in every county, in every state, including Pennsylvania. The president's actions threaten every person on earth because knowing that the climate is changing and observing in real time the resulting devastation from intense heat, extreme storms, choking wildfires, and consciously choosing to ignore it and to turn his back on action to help people survive and thrive. Well, let's just say that he reminds us once again that his cruelty is a feature and not a bug. For example, rolling back the climate provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act could deny long-term funding for the federal Black Lung Fund to ensure Pennsylvania's coal miners are taken care of. The fund currently provides permanent medical and legal services for 2,000 miners and their families in Pennsylvania. The RISE PA plan, which is also tied to the IRA, focuses on cutting industrial climate pollution, which is the largest source of greenhouse gases and carbon pollution in Pennsylvania, while creating good paying and sustainable jobs. And the reason for that is clear, because in addition to creating jobs and boosting the economy, reducing climate pollution results in extraordinary health benefits like clean air and clean water, less exposure to synthetic petrochemicals and plastics, and a natural environment that nurtures our physical and mental health. Reducing climate pollution reduces the threat of future climate chaos. Unfortunately, reversing that progress, as the president intends to do, would be a great tragedy for the environment, for our planet's climate system, and for our health. The health effects of fossil fuel pollution are well known after several decades of research showing impacts from pregnancy to childhood and into adulthood, from the cradle to a premature grave. We know that the fine particle pollution, the smelly and toxic vapors, and the synthetic petrochemicals can impair fertility and complicate pregnancies and lead to poor birth outcomes. Birth defects and developmental delays lead to lifelong health burdens for young children, for their families, and for society. Lung cancer, bladder cancer, and other types of adult and childhood cancers are linked to fossil fuel pollution, which impacts practically every organ system in the body, not just the lungs, but the heart and the brain, the liver and the kidneys. Recent research describes the links between fossil fuel and petrochemical pollution and the development of obesity, type 2 diabetes, dementia, anxiety, depression, and other forms of mental illness. And now it's estimated that millions of people worldwide die prematurely each year as a result of exposure to fossil fuel pollution. And that includes tens of thousands of Americans. All Pennsylvanians, city dwellers, suburbanites, rural residents, and farmers, all of us are at risk from fossil fuel pollution and climate change. But some of us are more vulnerable than others. It shouldn't surprise anybody that women and children would be at the top of the list. Pregnancy is an especially sensitive time for pregnant women and their babies. Elderly people and those of us who live with chronic medical conditions and disabilities are also at risk. And people living in low income and minority communities are more likely to be exposed to higher levels of fossil fuel pollution and have more health problems related to those exposures. People of color and Indigenous Americans, who often live in environmental justice zones close to polluting industries, are at higher risk of exposure and health impacts. Workers who labor outdoors are at risk from poor air quality and the rising heat and extreme weather from climate change. And let's not forget our first responders who bravely run into dangerous situations fueled by fossil fuels. Now, Pennsylvania is considered an energy state. First, it was timber, then it was coal, then oil, and now it's fracked gas that has helped power the nation while scarring the landscape, degrading the environment, contaminating the air, water, and soil with dangerous chemicals and radiation, and making Pennsylvanians sick with higher rates of heart and lung disease and cancer. The president wants to drill, baby, drill. Unfortunately, Pennsylvania's government believes it can continue to drill and frack without harming the public, the environment, and the climate. That's climate denialism, as dangerous as the president's, and it's practiced by members of both parties in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvanians, especially Pennsylvania's children, deserve better. Extracting more methane from Pennsylvania's frack lands will not solve the climate crisis. In fact, there's abundant evidence that fracking accelerates climate change. Fracking to make more plastic and petrochemicals, that doesn't solve the climate crisis either. In fact, it makes it worse. And the math is pretty convincing that blue hydrogen made from fracked methane will also make the climate crisis worse and make more people sick. The good news is, after years of denial and delay, the US has made enormous progress to reduce health harming climate pollution and the threat of climate chaos. We cannot afford any further delay to protect health and preserve a livable planet for all. We need to do better. Our children deserve better. And with that, let me hand it over to Katie.
Great. Well, thank you again so much, Ned and Kelly, for being here and for sharing your expertise. This concludes our webinar and hope to see you all again soon.